Incredible day for our franchise as we welcome DeWanna Bonner, who is one of the greatest players in WNBA history, to the Indiana Fever.
This is DeWanna Bonner, a two-time champion, six-time All-Star, and one of the reasons why Caitlin Clark haters have been crying in their pillows for the past month. Yes, we all know that with the Fever's free agency moves, they're more stacked than my IHOP pancakes the morning after a fun Saturday night. And obviously, this has Fever fans more pumped than the pre-2008 housing market, because they know a championship is no longer just a fantasy. And just as the rest of the WNBA finally caught their breath, a new piece by The Athletic has got the haters back in the fetal position. The article digs into DeWanna's free agency strategy and why she eventually went with the Fever. If you're a Fever fan, stick around, because you'll want to hear what teams she turned down and why. If this isn't the biggest nobody wants to be a part of the Caitlin Clark circus mythbuster, I don't know what is. I know we've heard a lot about the new look Fever, but DeWanna's decision says everything you need to know about how big a year this could be for Indy, and, of course, Caitlin Clark, who more and more looks to be in a position to totally transform the WNBA and nuke the haters in 2025. Let's get into it. But first, like this video to welcome DeWanna and subscribe if the Fever are going all the way. Let's rewind for a second. So yeah, the internet swore up and down that no one wanted to play with Caitlin Clark.
One WNBA player is crushing a false narrative that players do not want to play with Caitlin.
It's a media circus. Too much drama, media personalities screeched. Well, as it turns out, if you set countless records, sell out every barn you play in, and drag your bottom-feeding team into the playoffs in your rookie season, top players want to be a part of it. That last part, the transformation from being a perennial loser to an instant winner, is the key. I know it's hard to remember, and many Fever fans have erased this era from their minds like Men in Black, but the Indiana Fever before Caitlin were weaker than Taco Bell hot sauce. With a 13-27 record in 2023, they were the WNBA's resident punching bag, less Fever and more low-grade cold you can't shake. The year before that, 5-31. At that clip, a team comprised of the anthem singer and a few ushers may have been more competitive. Average attendance hovered around 4,000 fans, and if you were brave enough to go to a game, you could hear the echoes of disappointment bouncing off the empty seats. The Fever hadn't made the playoffs since 2016, a drought so long it rivaled the wait for a new Grand Theft Auto. They were the league's sad trombone, the womp womp of women's hoops. Enter Caitlin Clark in 2024, who changed the Fever's fortunes faster than Angel Reese rebounds her own misses. She was part sharpshooter, part wizard, and kept the college swagger, averaging 19.2 points, 8.4 assists, and 5.7 rebounds per game. She snagged Rookie of the Year and smashed the WNBA single-season assist record. So yeah, not too shabby. The Fever's glow-up was unreal. Clark turned their middle-of-the-road offense into a sleek, third-in-the-league machine, dragging them from the basement to a 2020 record and a playoff spot. Their first since Michelle Obama was picking White House decor. Attendance? Try 340,000 fans over 18 home games, averaging 17,000 per night, highest in WNBA history. That's not a crowd, that's a hoops pilgrimage to the new mecca of basketball. The Fever went from who cares to who's got an extra ticket. Oh, but of course the internet's gonna internet. Even with Caitlin Clark turning the Indiana Fever into the WNBA's hottest ticket, packing arenas, spiking ratings, and making the league relevant for the first time since, well, ever, the haters kept yapping. It's a circus, they shrieked, as if pro athletes would rather dribble in obscurity than ball out in the spotlight. Nobody wants to play in Indiana with all that drama, they whined. There was even the poor Christy Sides narrative. The Fever's ex-coach got the axe after the season, playoffs or not, and the pity party was in full swing. I think Christy did as good of a job as she could have, managing all the craziness, all of the Caitlin mania, all of the hype, all of the media, Cheryl Swoops cried, as if managing Clark's supernova was like performing open heart surgery while riding a unicycle. I mean, sure, coaching a team with a rookie sensation is like directing a blockbuster with a world's biggest actress. The stakes are high, and you either nail it or get replaced. Sides was ridiculed all season for making bad decisions. It's since come out that Caitlin didn't get advice and support she'd have liked. Sides didn't survive the cut, and the Fever moved on. It's the circle of life in pro sports. And really, the whole idea that players and coaches don't want the attention in media. Some don't, but the big game players crave it. I mean, the idea that a top player would avoid Indy because of Clark's circus is like saying a musician would turn down a sold-out tour because they don't like crowds. And let's not forget that the circus they're so terrified of is what's actually going to lead to more teams, more revenue, and higher salaries for all players. Clark's rookie season revolutionized the WNBA. 170% viewership spike, 1,200% merch sales surge, and local businesses raking in 25% more on game days. That's not chaos. That's a cash printer and a league finally breaking through to the mainstream. All this talk about chaos was just the old guard shaking in their boots, like blockbuster execs watching Netflix take over. The Fever's success, Clark's brilliance, and the WNBA's glow-up are undeniable. The circus is here to stay, and it's the best thing to happen to women's hoops since the three-point line. Anyway, this year's free agency ended all of this nonsense, with the Indiana Fever going full Avengers Assemble mode, snapping up players like they were Infinity Stones. After a breakout season with Caitlin Clark lighting up the league, the Fever decided to flex their muscles and build a roster so stacked it's borderline unfair. With these signings, they're looking less like a scrappy underdog and more like the 2010 Miami Heat, stacking stars and daring the rest of the WNBA to stop them. Let's break it down, because this lineup is giving championship vibes. First, they locked in Kelsey Mitchell, the sharpshooting sidekick who dropped a casual 19.2 points per game in 2024. Why let her go when she's the perfect partner in crime for Clark's assist machine? Next up, they snagged Natasha Howard, a three-time champ and former Defensive Player of the Year, who's basically a walking nope to anyone driving the lane. Then, in a slick trade, they nabbed Sophie Cunningham, a gritty sharpshooting wing who'll bury threes in your face and then ask if you need directions back to the bench. Cunningham's here to stretch the floor and make life miserable for anyone guarding her. And let's not forget Aaliyah Boston, 2023's Rookie of the Year, who's already a double-double machine and a rim-protecting terror and nowhere near her ceiling.
Helped guide Connecticut to the semifinals where they've been each of the last 5 years, and Bonner.
And that brings us back to DeWanna Bonner. This woman's a living legend. 2 titles, 6 All-Star nods, and 15 years of straight-up domination. For the last 5 seasons, she dragged the Connecticut Sun to the semis every year, including a finals run in 2022. In 2024, at 37 years young, she still averaged 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists, proving she's got more game left than your uncle's dusty PlayStation. Many fans were actually surprised she picked the Indiana Fever. After her spicy showdown with Caitlin Clark in the 2024 playoffs, you'd think these two would rather share a court with a swarm of bees than each other. Bonner fouled Clark like she was swatting a fly, words flew faster than a fast break, and the tension was thicker than an Irish accent after a few whiskeys. So when Bonner signed with Indy, jaws hit the floor. But don't worry, she's got a good reason for choosing Indy. And this is what is getting Fever fans psyched for 2025. According to The Athletic, Bonner wasn't short on options. Teams were vying for her like she was the Bachelorette down to her last rose. One team she turned down was the Minnesota Lynx. This was the team that was one phantom call away from the 2024 crown, with stars like Nafisa Collier and Kayla McBride ready to run it back. It was also reported that the Phoenix Mercury were hot to trot. Her old crew, stacked with icons like Diana Taurasi, who has since retired, but Bonner shunned them all for the Fever. Why, you ask? According to the report, she said Indy's got the best shot at winning now. Let that sink in for a moment. Let's talk Bonner's cred. At 37, she's a 2-time champ, 6-time All-Star, and still dropping huge numbers. That mix of experience, skill, and output is extremely rare and incredibly valuable to a championship-caliber team. That's why she had no shortage of teams who would sign her in a heartbeat. But at 37, she knows that unless she goes Tom Brady mode, she's entering the twilight of her career. Unlike when you're a young star with a 10 to 15 year career ahead of you, at DeWanna's age, every season and every decision is that much more critical. It's not about winning in 5 years or even 3 years. When she picks a team, it's about winning now. And she turned down 2 championship contenders in favor of the Fever. How can you not love that as a Fever fan? After signing, she said, "I'm looking forward to coming in, sharing my leadership and knowledge, and doing my part to help get this team get back to its championship pedigree." Translation: she's here to hoist trophies, not hold hands. Pairing up with Clark, new coach Stephanie White, a fave from her Connecticut days, and a revamped roster, that's a recipe spicier than a one-chip challenge. DeWanna Bonner's decision to join the Indiana Fever is the basketball equivalent of a mic drop. It's a bold statement that screams, "Hey, haters, you were wrong. Players do want to play with Caitlin Clark and in Indiana." She's not just signing a contract. She's RSVPing to a party that's about to pop off. And that's the thing. While DeWanna is chasing the glory of a championship, this is bigger than her or even the Fever.
Clark working on Van Loo. Oh, Clark, pretty step back, hits a three.
Got a little separation.
The stars are literally aligning to transform the trajectory of the WNBA even more than Caitlyn's first season. This roster isn't here to flirt with the playoffs. They're chasing the crown. It's giving 90s Bulls vibes. Caitlyn and Aaliyah Boston, the two core pieces, are only 23 and not close to their prime despite their early successes. Kind of like Jordan and Pippen. And yeah, I know it's not an exact comparison. I'm talking about impact. The Fever, with these signings, and yes, I know it's early, are opening the door to the dynasty zone. They're creating a win or bust environment in Indy, attractive to any player who wants a ring. As long as Caitlyn and Aaliyah stay healthy, there will always be players who will take a cap-friendly salary to have their shot at glory. With the new CBA about to increase the salary cap, you're going to see two types of players. One's wanting a payday, and others willing to earn less to play for a winner. Indy will be able to snag a blend of both. Now, why does all of this matter to the WNBA? Let's cut to the chase. The Indiana Fever winning a WNBA championship matters because fans want Caitlyn Clark to win. Need proof?
Prove it.
Her 2024 NCAA Finals showdown against South Carolina raked in 18.9 million viewers, absolutely dwarfing the WNBA Finals 1 to 2 million viewer ceiling. Even Caitlyn's first-round WNBA playoff Game 2 pulled 2.5 million sets of eyeballs, outpacing some NBA games. This isn't hype. It's a paradigm shift. If Clark leads the Fever deep into the playoffs, or heaven forbid for the haters, to a championship, the WNBA won't just get a bump, it'll get a rocket launch. The attention would be seismic. Some might argue that once she wins, the allure will fade. Please, tell that to Michael Jordan and the Bulls. Victory didn't dim their shine. It flipped the script to legacy, dominance, and irresistible storylines. Who can challenge Caitlyn will become the rallying cry. She'd morph into a hero and a villain, beloved by her faithful and public enemy #1 to everyone else. That's the playbook for legends like Jordan, Tom Brady, and Patrick Mahomes. The more you win, the bigger the target on your back, and the louder the buzz gets. Clark's not just elevating herself here, she's hoisting the entire league onto her shoulders. Her gravitational pull doesn't stop at the Fever's roster. It's a rising tide lifting all boats. The WNBA's already seen a 170% rating spike, packed houses, and a media rights deal ballooning to $200 million a year. A Fever title would cement this momentum, creating a platform for the next Caitlyn Clark to step up. This isn't just a feel-good story. It's the WNBA clawing its way out of the so-called poverty zone into sustained profitability. This alone would do wonders for the perception of the WNBA. And then there's this. Caitlyn winning a title or an MVP eliminates a lot of the noise about her hype being undeserved and dependent on race. I'm not going to get into everything that's ever been said by Joy Taylor, Sheila Johnson, Cheryl Swoops, and others in the WNBA ecosystem, but their arguments center around other players not getting attention, despite being just as talented, or scoring more points, or winning championships. Winning erases those crutches, and crushes a talking point that many believe has been a distraction, casting a shadow over what Caitlyn is accomplishing. The haters know a championship permanently changes the conversation, will continue to attract players to Indy, and will keep Caitlyn and the Fever competitive for years to come. And that's what makes DeWanna Bonner's choice so important. At 37, she's not signing with the Fever for a nostalgia tour or a paycheck, she's chasing a ring. And she knows Caitlyn Clark's Indiana Fever is her best shot. Bonner, a savvy vet with a nose for winning, sees the window wide open, and it's Clark holding the latch. As long as Caitlyn keeps doing what she does, lighting up scoreboards and drawing crowds, that window isn't slamming shut anytime soon. If you're still here, drop a basketball emoji in the comments to let me know. Thanks for watching.